Spider-Man 2.
You serious?
Yes. Yes, this is me. Call it the beginning of the end. Spider-Man 2, in my opinion, the perfect superhero movie. One that balances a great villain, a great hero, and a great love interest. Right. Spider-Man 2 is a movie that I still look to when I try to find inspiration for my own writings. This is a movie that I've rewatched tens of, probably hundreds of times, picked apart why it's so well remembered and why it's so good. I've played God of War, I've played so much Transformers, and now...
I have nothing left except Spider-Man.
I don't. I have like 100 games in the backlog. Don't worry. But now it's time to take a look back into the past, before Insomniac gave us the wonderfully made Spider-Man games with a compelling story, amazing gameplay, fantastic graphics, oh wait, that was IGN. And everything else it did right, there was Spider-Man 2. You guys asked for it.
I want Spider-Man!
Spider-Man 2 immediately went into development under Treyarch. Really, the Treyarch.
I'm a goddamn onion, Mason.
After the success of Spider-Man 1, the movie... This game aimed to capture web-slinging much more accurately. Like, literally, it seemed like traversal was the main goal of the game. And this was spearheaded by developer Jamie Fristrom. Jamie had been working on a web-slinging prototype during the first game, but seeing as the game was too far into development, they were not able to implement it. But now they had 2 years to get ready for the release of Spider-Man 2, and in this time, the team put all hands on deck to create an incredibly innovative experience. Treyarch was determined to create something special, something that was going to put you in the shoes of Spider-Man himself. But despite the lengthy 2 years of development, a pretty long time for a licensed project, as well as a tie-in game, the development team had some serious crunch time in the last 9 months of production. This came with changes to the game, and quite a few things had to be cut, especially from the story, such as villains that were going to be included, a boatload of side missions, more defined city areas and buildings, and even a full sewer system that was to be under the city. Despite all the cuts, the game was released with full emphasis on the experience it was going to give you. Upon release, the game was a huge hit. Players and critics alike praised the large nature of the map. People were happy as well as surprised to be experiencing New York in the way it was presented. Along with that, gameplay was a massive success amongst players. Treyarch had accomplished its goal of the Spider-Man experience. The game was receiving great reviews across the board. The PC port, though... But of course, with praise, there comes criticism. This was often attributed to the lack of diverse side missions, subpar level design, and parts of the game felt unfinished. Despite that, the game quickly made it onto many best PS2 game of all time lists. The dev team was quite happy with what they had created, and the game was a lasting hit with players long after it released. So with development out of the way, you know what time it is.
Pizza time.
So the thing I enjoy so much about Spider-Man 2 is the story. One of conflict, heartache, and choosing what's right. It doesn't exist in this game. Yeah, so it's pretty rough in this game, I'm gonna give it to you straight. I will say we get some absolutely fantastic voice acting performances from the cast.
Peter, I think you should know. I'm seeing someone now. A guy.
Oh. Really? Huh. Really?
The story is decent. I mean, it's there or the ghost of it is. You know, Peter's torn between wanting to be Spider-Man or wanting to be with MJ. And throughout the game, he is considered ditching civilian life and being Spider-Man full-time alongside Black Cat. But in the end, he decides against that. Me personally, I always thought Sam Raimi's Spider-Man would be much happier with somebody who could keep up in his superhero life and, like, you know, actually understand. But it's not about what I want. So some things pan out like they do in the movie, such as Doc Ock becoming Doc Ock, Mysterio showing up multiple times. Wait, what? Yeah, Mysterio shows up a few times throughout the story to inconvenience Spider-Man. Anyway, Spider-Man confronts Doc Ock at the bank, then at the train, which is not nearly as cool in the game. You don't get your hopes up. This turns into this. Harry eventually finds out Peter is Spider-Man, and then Peter goes to save MJ. Otto sacrifices himself, and the day is won. After doing so, MJ leaves her fiancé, which she led on to go kiss Peter. Tough break. And that's the game. Nothing too crazy, but it does. Well, you know, it does. I'll be honest, it's not the draw of this game, but damn, it's Rocky for sure. There's not a lot there. But I did enjoy the parts with Black Cat. Not because I'm a pervert. I'm just not the biggest fan of MJ in these movies. The story was just kind of there as a background character. Background to what, you may ask?
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Oh, the gameplay. This was the big draw for sure, and yes, it is what everybody chalks it up to be. The combat in this game has tons, and I mean tons of combos. Admittedly, I could not figure out some of the inputs. Within the massive amount of combos, you utilize punch attacks and web attacks, stringing the two in different button combinations to execute different moves. I was surprised at the amount of versatility the web attacks had. This included grapples, launches, and AoE attacks. There's also a spider sense mode, which slows down time and allows for more combo potential, and a bit even easier time dodging. Speaking of the dodge, there is a dodge. But you have to pay very, very, very close attention. There were definitely some attacks that get thrown at you that could have maybe just had a hair of a bigger dodge window, but oh well. Along with the gameplay, there's the traversal. The web slinging is very good. The momentum you gain while swinging around the city is pretty crazy. The game has a lot of different things that still carry into new Spider-Man games, like web zipping, charging up your swings to gain even more speed and momentum. I had always heard things about how good it was, but it was a lot better than I expected it to be, to be completely honest. Wall climbing definitely wasn't as fluid as swinging through the city, to be fair, but again, that's kind of a non-issue. I absolutely love swinging through the city, gaining incredible speeds and momentum. I remember there was a big argument when the first Insomniac game came out, posing the question if the newer games had improved on this one, which I do think they did. But after playing this game, I understood why that argument was put forward in the first place. I think the game could have benefited from a little bit more refinement when it came to the combat itself, specifically the dodging. There's a bit I'll touch on later during the boss segment. The wall crawling also isn't the best feeling, but the amount of combos and fantastic web swinging more than make up for it, as well as the ragdoll physics. You can just sit there and beat on somebody for as long as you want. Uncle Ben truly would be happy with this. Back on track though, the game had a huge ambition to reach out and create something truly special when it came to this game and the way it played. And they definitely succeeded. Yeah, I definitely see where the criticism came for when it came to the level design of this game. Sadly, the game doesn't have very many levels. The game is mostly just spread out across New York and is based around gaining points. But there are standalone levels, such as the Mysterio level, and certain ones based in warehouses and stuff like that. And of course, the iconic, the fantastic, the pizza level. Of course, these are standouts, but they're nothing too crazy. Again, this game definitely took its focus to the gameplay, and thankfully it was so memorable, because the level design doesn't really stack up with it. Although, that being said, New York is a pretty impressive setting. For a game pushing 25, this is a pretty huge open world with a lot of moving objects. And with that, New York also has plenty of room to swing as fast as you can. Graphics in this game are a bit odd. Spider-Man and the main cast look just fine, working facial animations and all. And the city, from a distance, is actually pretty good looking. Man, those non-main characters... Like, have you guys ever played Fears to Fathom? Like, they kind of look like this, you know? My hair has changed like 6 times during this video. Look at this Vegeta hairline. When you're down close to the ground and the streets are lively, this game can look pretty good. I would have loved to have seen what the developers had wanted to put in the game before they had to do the cuts. I think if they just had a little bit more time to add details to the game and some of the other environments they planned for made it into the game, the graphics would have been a lot more memorable. Other than the character models and a bit of a bare setting at times, the game does a pretty good job at looking good. Especially when you view the city from tops of buildings. Like, a bird's eye view is how you want to look at this game, or up in the air.
No one else is gonna die. This ends now.
Indeed it does.
I know there was a lot of bosses that had been cut from this game, but what you do get is decent enough. You fight the Shocker a handful of times, which offers some pretty good boss arenas. You fight the Rhino, only once though. You can definitely tell this was already finished after his future appearances were cut from the game. And this kind of sucks because you could have done some really fun boss fights out of what they had already created with that character. You also fight Mysterio a couple times. These are more so cases of running the gauntlet. Do not look that up. But eventually, you catch Mysterio slipping at the gas station. And of course, you fight Doc Ock. Okay, this is who I was referring to when I was talking about the dodging earlier. A lot of the times, there's really no breathing room for this guy, even with the Spidey Sense mode, especially in the later boss fight. I know it's really not that hard, but it is annoying. And I also know I'm going to get the comment from the guy who hasn't played the game in 22 years that's like, well, back in my day when we played video games. Go back and replay it. You will walk out with the same opinion as me. The bosses are pretty decent, but I do feel like there's something missing. You only have 2 reoccurring bosses, I'm not counting Mysterio. I think the bosses you get are decent enough, but I would have loved to have seen the other villains utilize this game's mechanics. You're not going to walk away from this game with a Dark Souls level boss experience, but you're also going to not walk away with the Thing level boss experience.
Hey, Spider!
Spider-Man 2 was a massive step for superhero games, and definitely still is one of the greats to be looked back upon. I'll toss the board up right now, and this time you're gonna sit here with me, and you're gonna enjoy it. Honestly, the story left a bit to be desired. I understand it's a tie-in game, and you connect the dots yourself, but there isn't really much of the story to be found from the movie. I think the Black Cat storyline, not a pervert, is the saving grace. I think the open world setting of this game was a big accomplishment. Even if the levels weren't great, roaming around was really fun, and I just wish that some of the missions were a bit more in depth. But New York itself, awesome. Obviously, this was going to get a high rating. The swinging and traversals of the game are fantastic and laid the groundwork for Spider-Man games to come. Combat has a lot of variety with the different combinations of combos you can pull off. How many times did I just say combos? The only thing bringing this back is the difficulty of some of those moves, the wall crawling, and the dodge is a little bit finicky. Graphics were okay. I thought the cinematic cutscenes were decent. The in-game cutscenes, decent. Character models, you know. Again, I think the bosses you get are pretty decent, but there was a lot of potential that was cut from the game. I felt like something was missing. That's probably just the amount of things that, again, were cut, but if there were more bosses that you were allowed to utilize the game's potential on, it would have been a bit more of a memorable experience when it comes to bosses themselves. I had a lot of fun playing this game. It was a nice, quick playthrough, and if I had this game when I was a little kid, I would have sunk so many hours into it. Swinging through the city and just doing Spider-Man stuff is pretty enjoyable. But I think if this game had added more to the story and had more unique levels and experience, like encounters, this would have swung. So that was Spider-Man 2, the previous king of superhero games, and one that we still feel the influence of today. A solid title that had huge ambition and followed through on it. I just wanted to apologize for the spotty uploads. I'd really like to bring it back to uploading once every other week. I was running a really crazy no off days work schedule. It was wonderful. And that didn't offer me much in the way of time. I think I'm going to try and get supplementing this by doing more short form content, like playthrough content, as well as videos where I just spout my opinions on things. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and hopefully the random face reveal won't scare off half my audience. I'm not sure what game we're covering next. I'll probably throw up another poll and go from there. I really enjoyed that last one. But while that's cooking up, I think I know what my next upload is going to be. We're going to crash land with the Aurora and dive into Subnautica.